That looks really good. Oh, what do we have here? Ooh-wee. That's what I'm talking about.
What are you doing now?
I thought I told you to knock. How many times have I told you to knock before coming into this room?
Sorry to interrupt special time with your little doll catalog.
How dare you? How dare you call it that?
Whatever.
Jeez. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 82 of Brett on Fett, and the final figure for the latest wave of the vintage collection finally arrived at my doorstep the other day, and that being Pre Vizsla. And this looks to be a really good figure, so I wanted to give my full review of this figure for you guys. But before we get to that, I did get some interesting pickups recently, including the amazing Star Wars toy guide for the Kenner action figures by ReadFive Designs. And I got another vintage Kenner figure to add to my collection of 48C back bounty hunters. So let's take a look. All right, to kick off my recent pickups, I did order a few figures from the Book of Bobafett Retro collection line because I am a fan of some of these characters despite the show being mediocre. And I am a huge fan of Cadbane, so absolutely had to order him. I basically order everything that is Cadbane. And it's a pretty cool looking film out. It's the same image from the TVC version, which is a great image. And the figure is about what you would expect for a Retro Collection 5 POA figure. And it's pretty cool. And of course, the backs of these Retro Collection figures have not changed. Worst in any Star Wars line. Next up, I ordered krrsantan, mainly because I wanted this card back because we didn't get a proper card back for TVC. And it is pretty cool. Again, ruined by the giant sticker. And the figure is interesting. I mean, look at this face. Yikes. That is the stuff of nightmares. And I believe if you stare into his eyes long enough, he will steal your soul. So please be careful out there. But overall, I think it's pretty consistent with what Kenner might have done. Very similar to the original Chewbacca. So, not a bad take on krrsantan in the Kenner style. And then lastly, I got Fennec Shand. I think originally I wasn't planning on ordering her, but I needed to spend another $10 to get free shipping with Entertainment Earth. And I do like this image on the card back. It's interesting how sometimes Retro Collection will use a different image from TVC. I kind of feel like maybe they should do that for all the figures that aren't original 96ers. And this is a cool image of her. The figure itself is not bad at all, and I do like that the helmet is removable. This kind of reminds me of the Princess Leia Bausch figure from back in the day, so pretty cool. All right, so I am on a mission to collect all of the original Kenner mint on card figures for the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, particularly on the 48C back that has the Revenge of the Jedi offer sticker on it. You may recall a few weeks ago I got the Zuckuss. Well, the other day I was able to pick up Forlom. Of course, the names are reversed on these guys. We all know this is actually Zuckuss, but back in the day it was called Forlom because Kenner had that swapped. And this is a great representation. It's got the tear there on the hang tab, and it's got a minor vein across the middle that you can barely see, but everything else about this card is fantastic. The bubble is clear. Now the weapons did come loose from the tape, but to me that's not a big deal. But man, the back of the card looks great. This just really displays nicely, and I was very lucky to get in on an auction on eBay that didn't have a whole lot of participation, so I feel like I got a really good deal for this. And so very happy to now have both Zuckuss and Forlom. I do have the Bossk. If you follow my channel, the Bossk is the first one I got, but that is currently at the grader. Hoping to get that back soon, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And finally, as you may have seen on my Instagram, my Star Wars toy guide for Kenner action figures by ReadFive Designs finally came in. This book is so amazing. It's very impressive. This is the second edition. Quite a few people got in on the original Kickstarter. I missed out on the first edition Kickstarter, so was completely ecstatic when they announced a second edition. I mean, look at these photos. Just brilliant. It's so well done. And they included some ribbons on this second edition, which is awesome. I'm already taking advantage of that. And look at the way they lay out the figures. Just very good photography, and then of course complete information on every single variant of every figure. It's just so well done, you can't say enough about it. If you want more information on the book, just go check out ReadFive Designs website. I'll put a link in the description. You can also do a search for ReadFive Designs on YouTube and you'll find plenty of awesome reviews of the book. And unfortunately, it's sold out for the second edition, but keep checking back with their website. If there's enough interest, they may do a third edition. You just never know. All right, so now it's time for my review of the new Pre Vizsla, and here he is on card, and it's looking really good. Of course, it's got that nice Clone Wars logo, and the film out is a very nice image taken from the show, I imagine, looking really good. And there's the figure himself, and man, he's looking really impressive. Look at that menacing face. And here's a look at the back of the card. You can see it's VC 299, and I do like that sort of teal blue color used. That's actually one of my favorite colors, so I think it looks very nice with this figure. So overall, I'm really liking this figure mint on card, but let's go ahead and take a look at him out of the package. So here is Pre Vizsla straight out of the package with all his accessories. So we'll look at those first. He comes with 2 of his little blaster pistols. These are pretty standard from all those Mandalorians we got last year. There's a look at his jetpack, looking really good. It's that kind of gunmetal gray. I would have liked to have seen a slightly more metallic gray applied to this jetpack. I think this may just be gray plastic, but nonetheless, it still looks really good to me. Next up is his Darksaber. Now this looks really good with the paint patterns there along the blade. That's a nice touch, but unfortunately this thing is super flimsy. It is just way too soft. The hilt isn't too bad, but the blade itself is just so rubbery, and so that could be an issue. And then lastly is his helmet, and this thing looks fantastic. It was my favorite part about the Black Series version, and it's definitely my favorite part so far on the TVC version. The antenna things are a bit gummy, but I don't think that's too big of a deal. But the paint finish on this looks great. See, it does have a metallic kind of gunmetal gray color on there, so that's awesome. And it's not too squishy. You know, it's a little bit pliable, but it's not too squishy, so that's excellent. All right, so let's take a look at the figure itself without the accessories, and he is looking really good with these paint apps. And his flight suit, if you will, it's kind of a greenish gray, which kind of surprised me. I don't know how screen accurate that is, to be honest with you. I'd have to go back and watch. I was expecting this to be more of a standard gray, but I do like it's got a little bit of a greenish blue little bit there in the flight suit, and I like the way it looks with the gunmetal gray and the bright blue paint apps. And check out this face sculpt, that is amazing. In my opinion, I don't think Hasbro could have done a better job interpreting the animated Pre Vizsla into a more realistic TVC style face sculpt. Just excellent. And I continue to be impressed with the level of detail that Hasbro is able to achieve on these 3 3/4 figures nowadays. And here's a look at Pre Vizsla with all his accessories on, looking awesome. Man, I just love the way he looks with that helmet. And I have purposely not watched any other YouTuber reviews of this figure, so I'm not sure what they're saying about the helmet, but the helmet size to me is just fine. It does not look too big to me at all. And I think we have enough examples to know that Hasbro can make removable helmets work, at least for the male character figures. I understand with the female figures, you may have to use swappable heads to make the helmet size work, but it works here. And the Darksaber looks great. The Darksaber hilt is a bit thin. That's just how the design of the Darksaber is. But probably if Hasbro made his hand grip a little bit tighter, maybe a little bit too tight to hold his blasters. So it's fine, it works. All right, so let's take off his accessories and run through the articulation. Now, this is basically the same mold as the Mandalorians we got before, so you're going to see a lot of similarities. His neck is on a ball swivel, but because of the wrappings around his neck, it does limit his head, unfortunately, so you don't have a whole lot of movement there. He's got the same kind of pauldrons on those previous Mandalorians, and you've got the ball hinge there, so plenty of movement there. Here you've got a hinge, and it does get more than 90 degrees, so that's excellent. There is a ball hinge at the elbow, but for some reason it's very tough to rotate it, but you can make it rotate. You have swivel wrists with a vertical hinge, which is always good for anyone that's going to wield a saber. So that's good, and it's the same on the right wrist as well. Vertical hinge there. So that's all good. Let's take a look at the torso crunch. You've got it on a ball there, so plenty of motion. The crunch is a bit limited, but not bad. Pretty standard, actually, and it swivels fine. At the hips, you've got the new style barbell hips, of course. You've got a swivel joint at the upper thigh, and you've got a hinge there at the knee that gets more than 90 degrees, so that's great, and it can rotate. And then you've got the hinge at the ankles that are rocker ankles. So basically all the newest type of articulation on this figure. So range of motion on this figure is excellent and far superior to the Black Series version of Pre Vizsla, which was unfortunately the downfall of that figure, which otherwise would have been excellent as well. All right, so let's get him on the spinny. So overall, Pre Vizsla is a very impressive figure, a very smart reuse of that great mold we got for those Mandalorian figures last year. A much needed character for the line. His helmet looks excellent. It's not oversized. The only downside to this figure, in my opinion, is the super flimsy Darksaber blade, and I would have preferred for his jetpack they use the same metallic gray paint apps that they used on his helmet and his armor. But other than that, excellent figure, and no doubt he will be in the conversations for Figure of the Year. And I wanted to take a brief moment to recognize how awesome of a wave this was to round out 2023 for the Vintage Collection. Every one of these figures brought something to the table. You had a smart repack, you had a smart reuse of a mold. We finally got Krennic, we finally got Revan, we finally got Chopper. Those are three of figures that I've been wanting for a while. So I just couldn't be happier with this wave. I'm having a hard time thinking of a better overall wave released for the Vintage Collection. That might actually make a good YouTube video to do in the future to go over maybe a top 5 TVC waves of all time. So if you got any waves in mind that you think might be better than this one, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And before I go, I gotta give a quick last figure standing update. Round 3 concluded this past week. We were voting on Hammerhead, Cobb Vanth, Balin Skull, or the Tonica sisters, and the results were revealed on the live stream last night on Saturday, December 16th. And it was revealed that Cobb Vanth and Balin Skull are out. They are eliminated. We are now left with Hammerhead and the Tonica sisters. That did surprise me a little bit. Now, personally, I voted for Cobb Vanth and Hammerhead because I thought they are just the most important figures to get into the line at this time. And I believe that Hasbro is already going to make Balin Skull. That's just my personal opinion. But I have a lot of friends in the community that are very passionate about getting the Tonica sisters in the line, and I'm totally fine with that and very excited for them that that they have made it this far. And so looking forward to seeing the results. Most likely I will vote for Hammerhead. He's just a very nostalgic figure for me that I would love to see updated for TVC. So go cast your votes for the champion. You can go now onto the Last Figure Standing Instagram page and fill out the Google form. And it's just down to those two, so go pick your champion. And by the way, with Cobb Vanth being eliminated, that now eliminates all of my original 10 picks that I voted for to kick off the Last Figure Standing campaign. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new Pre Vizsla figure for the Vintage Collection, and if you think this may be one of the best TVC waves we've ever seen. Thanks for checking out this video. Thank you to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram and on X. Take care, and we'll see you next time.